IMSA is heading over to one of the most esteemed racing facilities in the world for a well-publicised event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They'll of course be racing on the road course, with these prototype and supercars not exactly being suitable motor vehicles for the oval. This event will last 2 hours 45 minutes before a move next year that will turn this track into an endurance race. However, the excitement is already catching the team's eyes, with the entry list being the highest it's been this season for one of IMSA's sprint races, standing as of recording at 48 entries. A lot is being made of this event, almost as if IMSA's trip to Indianapolis is unique, or is something the series hasn't done before, even though that is exactly what has happened before. We're going back to the 27th of July 2012 for an event that was known as the Brickyard Grand Prix. It was for the Grand Am series, one of the categories that merged in 2014 to become the modern IMSA series we know and love today. But that being said, of course, how on earth can we forget about these beautiful Daytona prototype machines? The event would take place on a Friday, which does sound slightly odd, but it does make more sense when you consider that the race took place on the same weekend as the NASCAR event at the same venue. But not the same track, the NASCARs would be using the oval. However, and I feel it's important to not leave out this crucial piece of information, it took place on the same day as the opening ceremony for the London Olympics. As you can tell by my distinctive accent, I'm from the UK, so every household was tuned in for that moment. I mean, it's not a usual occurrence for your country to host one of the most globally recognised events in the world. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked here. As you can tell by these images, the weather wasn't ideal. The 3-hour race started behind the safety car as a result of standing water. However, after not too long, sports car racing at the Brickyard commenced. Not that the broadcast caught that though initially. Conditions were tricky. Visibility looked not that optimal. But with the sun out and the track drying, the racing was fairly intense. The 0-1 of Memo Rojas climbing up through the field from 8th up to 2nd early on. Oh, and you may have noticed that this is the older version of the GP circuit. The one with the slow hairpins bypassing the, at that point, non-existent high-speed chicane, and the final corner was the first corner in reverse of the oval. Then when the track went to full dry conditions, a three-way fight developed for the lead, and Rojas took decisive advantage of the GT traffic with a fantastic and bold manoeuvre on the 99 of John Fogerty. Caution 2, first for an instant, came from this, in a way, agonising spin for LSAO Salazar. At this point, the race felt like it was starting to develop a bit of a pattern, until a deluge enveloped the circuit. When the pace car came in, so did everyone else. Well, almost everyone. A few cars went off on the slick tyres, which unsurprisingly didn't really work, such as the Rick Ware Racing Ford Mustang of Kevin O'Connell. But bigger drama ensued in the GT class, when Robin Liddell lost it on his way into the pits, putting the Camaro well out of race-winning contention. But then the caution finally came out again after Osvaldo Negri and the 73 Porsche went off at the same turn as Salazar. When the race went back to green, the conditions were still wet enough to the point where the GTs could keep up with the prototypes. Jörg Bergmeister in the TRG Porsche in particular was impressive. Unfortunately, 3 cautions in the space of around 45 minutes would slow the pace of the race down, but by the time the last of those cautions was withdrawn, the track would go back to being dry again. Rojas was trying to defend his second place on the restart, but went on the brakes a smidge too late and had a trip to the gravel, but would not get stuck. However, at the end of the lap, Ronnie Bremer in the other Stevenson Motorsports Camaro would have a wild moment on the front stretch, bringing the caution out once again. The cause? Him and a recovering Rojas got together, causing the Camaro to spin and impact the wall. Astonishingly, the 0-1 was not damaged to the point of being out of the race, and would still be in contention when the green flag waved. A brilliant GT battle raged between Jörg Bergmeister and Jordan Taylor, but with half an hour to go, another battle would rage, which would ultimately lead to Joao Barbosa ending up stuck at turn 4. He ended up having a collision with Juan Pablo Montoya, who was driving the 0-2 Chip Ganassi entry, a part-time effort that also included Scott Dixon and Jamie McMurray in the car. Caution comes out, and then a restart again, almost second nature by now, and the battling had gotten to its most intense period with the clock winding down. The pressure to make moves now was high, and then the caution returned for the 8th time this race, and it involved Montoya again. He got into a collision with the number 8 Starworks Motorsport Riley Ford of Ryan Dial, who had been in the lead for a good portion of the race. The owner of Starworks Motorsport, Peter Barron, seemed just a tiny bit irritated. Montoya's here to do one thing: wreck our race and our championship. We've told the series this was going to happen. We have emails saying Montoya's going to take us out, phone calls, you name it. The entire world knew Montoya's going to take somebody out. It didn't take Nostradamus to tell you Montoya's going to take somebody out. 7 minutes left and the green came out once again, and Ricky Taylor attempted an outside move for the lead on Sebastian Bourdais. It didn't work. It then subsequently allowed the 0-1, now being driven by Scott Pruitt, to get second place, whilst chaos occurred behind them. However, the GT battle would cause another caution, with Bergmeister ending up in the gravel. The green flag would not be waved again, sadly, with the race ending up finishing under yellow. Bourdais and Alex Popov would end up the winners, with the 44 Magnus Racing Porsche taking victory in GT, with John Potter and Andy Lally. On the whole, an exciting, but rather bonkers race. Grand Am would return in 2013, and its affair wouldn't turn out to be quite as caution-filled this time round, although that didn't stop there being plenty of incidents. However, it seemed to be a particularly hectic race for the number 3 8-star Motorsports Corvette DP, who had no less than 4 spins during the race, all within the space of 70 minutes. For the 2013 race though, Alex Popov would see the checkered flag first again, but with a new teammate in Ryan Dial, getting redemption for missing out on the win last year. Max Papis and Jeff Siegel won in GT, while Sylvain Tremblay and Tom Long won in GX, a new class that might be worth going through in a separate video. Then in 2014, Grand Am and the American Le Mans Series merged together to form the IMSA series that goes on now, and Indianapolis would return once again, still being raced on the Friday before the NASCAR races. Plus, the layout was now the same as the one used by IndyCar nowadays, meaning the quick chicane and the final complex would be utilised, with the final complex replacing the reverse oval turn 1 final corner, which I must admit does sound like the ultimate oxymoron. The tighter first corner led to some mayhem at the start, with Sagecam taking a 100% legitimate line to try and avoid an accident that Gustavo Yackerman couldn't avoid in the Oak Racing Morgan Nissan LMP2. The Action Express Corvette DP of Christian Fittipaldi in the number 5 would overtake the Extreme Speed Motorsports HPD of Scott Sharp on the first lap, and would stay there when the first caution flew for a door on the track. Not the usual thing to see on a racetrack, but I'm pretty sure Dominic Farnbacher was doing that for a completely above the rules weight reducing mechanism, or as an alternative form of air conditioning. The race restarted, and then pretty much immediately went back to yellow again after a multi-car incident, most notably involving the number 3 Corvette. Whilst all the cars left the scene, they left some reminders of their antics strewn across the circuit. The race would then go about 5 laps into a green flag stint before the caution flew yet again, initially for the 94 Turner Motorsport BMW Z4 of Paul Dalla Lana getting stuck. But this caution would last a fairly long time due to curb repairs needing to be done at the chicane. A big surprise, that one. Like for sure one of those fluky situations that we'll never see happen any more times. When the green flag eventually flew once again, the lead was fought heavily between the number 5 and 01 car, with the lead fluctuating fairly regularly between the pair. However, with 50 minutes remaining, the 5 Corvette then pulled a gap, which led to a formidable gap, as with no cautions the rest of the way, the victory margin was just under 49 seconds. RSR Racing won in Prototype Challenge with Jack Hawksworth and Chris Cumming. Kuno Wittmer and Jonathan Bomarito won in the GTLM division in the Dodge Viper SRT, whilst Jeff Westphal and Alessandro Bolzan won in GTD with a Ferrari run by Scuderia Corsa. However, these would be, for the time being, the last drivers to win in IMSA at the Brickyard, as on the 10th of August 2014, it was announced that Indianapolis would not return in 2015, bringing to an end a 3-year run of the Brickyard Grand Prix, and technically speaking, the event still won't be returning, even with IMSA returning, as the event will now be called IMSA Battle on the Bricks. Of course, this stint with Indianapolis is meant to last considerably longer, creating a new tradition perhaps. The thing is though, I'm cautiously optimistic that this event will be very exciting. All 3 of the previous events were, at the very least, good races. And with how incredibly close the competition is in IMSA at the moment, and seeing how the Indianapolis 8 Hours event has also produced some awesome races recently, it gives me more confidence of seeing an exciting race. The success of this race, though, will be judged on whether it's become a stable part of the calendar in 10 years' time, because if it has, then we'll probably know the answer to that question. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. What are your thoughts on IMSA's return to Indianapolis? Say in the comment section down below. Also, if you did enjoy this video, then I would be enormously appreciative if you did hit the like and subscribe button. However, until the next video, be kind to each other and enjoy the rest of your day.